I like Doomer politics / media, but I can't totally agree with this video, so let's get this started.
Dave Chappelle, one of the best stand-up comedians of all time, recently released a comedy special called The Closer. The second half of the special is largely about issues related to trans rights, and some of his comments have generated a tremendous amount of controversy online. And a lot of that is well-deserved, so I'm here to talk about why. Now, up front, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying Dave should be cancelled, and I'm not saying that Netflix is morally obligated to pull the special or something like that. What I am saying is that Dave was being kind of an asshole here, and that some of these comments really are unacceptable.
Okay, I'll take issue with that. Yeah, Dave's an asshole. He's an asshole, yo. But unacceptable? Let's hear.
Before I begin, I'd like to address a few comments I'm likely to get. That I just hate Chappelle, or that I don't get edgy comedy. When I heard the special was generating controversy, I tweeted out, "This gon' be good, watching this shit right now." So I am clearly not biased against Chappelle. I also called out Heem for hating on Chappelle, which was, unfortunately, the only time Heem has ever been right about something on Twitter. And not only do I get edgy comedy, I thrive in it. I got suspended from Twitch for shitposting this month. And I'd love to give you more examples, but I might get canceled, so just take my word for it. That being said,
is this what cancel's being like? No, not relevant enough yet. Controversial takes. Good with that.
The Closer still clearly crosses a line in my opinion. To explain why, I'll tell you a quick story about my friend Steven. Me and Steven had a relationship built entirely on roasting each other. We'd always try and one-up each other to make the most extreme jokes possible and make each other laugh. But there was one exception to this. Steven was quite fat and obviously very insecure about being fat. So I never made jokes about that because I was trying to make him laugh, not piss him off. Until one day, Steven lost a lot of weight, over 100 pounds. And as a result, he completely overcame the insecurity about his weight. So I laid into this medium-sized motherfucker with every fat joke I could think of, culminating in a 10-minute rant about how he was going to get so fat he wouldn't be able to get out of bed, and they were going to have to come rescue him with a crane like the end of What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Pretty offensive shit, but Steven thought it was hilarious because now he was in on the joke. This establishes a pretty simple principle. Tell jokes that the target of the joke will appreciate. The problem isn't that
Okay. Now, when the people you're telling jokes about can't take a joke, that's different. And to relate a personal experience with a personal friend with the asshole, which I will agree, Chappelle is an asshole, dealing with a lot of other assholes online, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a war of the assholes, a flame war, so to speak. But move on.
Chappelle makes jokes about trans people. The problem is that he makes some very cruel jokes about trans people that many of them obviously won't appreciate. First, let's look at a good Chappelle joke about trans people.
Because I didn't come up with this idea on my own. This idea that a person can be born in the wrong body. But they have to admit, that's a fucking hilarious predicament.
This isn't a joke at the expense of trans people, it's a joke about the absurdity of the situation. And I'm sure plenty of trans people can appreciate it. Jokes like this aren't the problem. The problem are comments like this.
If I was honest, I wouldn't fall for it. I just looked at the picture like, ooh, look at that big chiseled jawline, that big thick Joe Rogan neck. Is that a dude?
This comment is taken out of context. Basically, this is Chappelle's reaction to this woman sort of knowing who he is and going against him. So the context is cut out from this clip, and Doomer really should have put that in, but I guess people make mistakes, or he has a framing job here. Better than some other jobs. Some jobs are good, some are bad. You know what I'm talking about there.
Is your daughter a man?
This comment from The Closer is just hateful and mean. What's the joke here, that trans people are disgusting? Just like...
No, again, he cut out the context and is trying to get people to go along. Out of context, yes, but this was him talking to this little old lady about his daughter, and he originally said, oh, very attractive. It's basically the front face and how you deal with people in public and internal thought. It's the contrast that really nails this joke home. This is probably one of the better jokes, and the reference to Joe Rogan is sort of taking a stance against some of this PC culture. That would be my guess, at least.
Steven wasn't going to have much of a sense of humor about fat jokes. Trans people aren't likely to have a sense of humor about misgendering or about comments that amount to little more than "you look gross." Dave is one of the best stand-up comedians of all time. He can do better than this, and he can be...
Yes, but why should he when he's the ire? The last special, Sticks and Stones, got so much shit, and we'll get into... I don't even think he really gets into probably the emotional turmoil Dave has about this. Maybe it's misplaced about his friend, suicide. Maybe that's even a lie, but in context, his anger would be justified, but that would be for later.
Funnier than this.
Not in.
I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean?
Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat are, shockingly, not meat. The punchline of this joke is that trans women aren't women, and hopefully you can understand why a lot of trans people wouldn't have a sense of humor about this. And the misgendering continues as Dave talks about his...
He's taking criticism with this. If someone... okay, sorry. Trans women don't have real vaginas, okay? It's artificial vaginas. You can't see the joke here. You're assuming some intent when the joke is along the lines that is logically consistent. I don't know the context behind this particular one because I don't remember it. It's been a while since I watched the special, a few days, and I don't have much of a memory, but this is just nitpicking here.
His friend Daphne.
Clearly, only a man would do some gangster shit like that. But I'll tell that little girl, young lady, I knew your father, and he was a wonderful woman.
Two things trans people are going to be particularly sensitive about are misgendering and making fun of their appearance.
This is his friend who died, possibly related to harassment on Twitter, possibly not, impossible to tell. His friend, not your friend, not the trans community friend, obviously, since she got flamed by it.
Which Dave seems to insist on doing at every available opportunity. And this isn't limited to this special either. Here's a bunch of examples from previous specials of comments that I would expect to piss off a lot of people.
Let's see, man, pussy. And the lights came up and I saw them knuckles. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of discourse about not... Even Destiny really went over if a trans woman does not disclose that she's trans. I'm not going to get into that, but it is definitely a part of discourse and a acceptable joke there. Caitlyn Jenner is just... South Park makes fun of her. Everyone makes fun of her. It's fine to make fun of public figures, especially such a notable woman of the year. Sorry, that was always funny to me. People make jokes on that all the time. First year, Bruce Jenner changed to Caitlyn Jenner. Was it a year or two before she got Woman of the Year? And that's sort of ridiculous. Let's go to the club and trick people into... Oh, traps, nice. Okay, out of context, I don't know that particular joke. I don't know about any of these jokes. Just out of context statements that he made to make him look transphobic. You're doing a good job, DoomerMedia, to misrepresent. I meant context is important in when you're building a case, and this video is too short for that.
People. And really quickly, let's address Daphne. Daphne Dorman was a comedian, trans woman, and Dave Chappelle's friend, who committed suicide shortly after the release of Chappelle's special Sticks and Stones. Chappelle ends the closer with a long story about Daphne, which clearly illustrates that Daphne supported Dave's jokes about trans people, and that Dave probably isn't transphobic in his heart. Now, that's all well and good. Daphne wasn't offended. But the point isn't that his jokes need to offend all trans people. The point is that they will reasonably offend a huge number of them.
Maybe he wants to offend the people who harassed Daphne in his mind, or at least that's his justification. This is the guy who turned down a fucking contract. He's not going to do something just for the money, just for the clicks. There's no precedent for the reason that he would do something. He's a very emotional, raw, doesn't always think with the right side of his head. His heart, or more appropriately, probably his other head, is what Chappelle is more known for. Off the cuff, internal dialogue that people won't say out loud. And this is called the closer. Maybe it's closure. I don't know. I'm just wondering about that name.
And Dave is already aware of the harm his jokes have caused.
Whoever wrote this letter truly loves me. I mean, they were really fucking nice in the letter. And then they described to me what it was like to come to the show, how excited they were, how much fun they were having. And then they said that when I got to my jokes about transgenders, that they were, quote, devastated. Because it turns out that whoever wrote the letter was transgender. I didn't feel bad about what I said, you understand? I felt bad that I made somebody else feel bad. To be honest, I don't even know what I said that upset that person. But I feel like it was probably this joke I'm about to tell you right now.
Yeah, this ain't it, Dave.
Yeah, prove the harm, okay? This could be completely fictional letter that he's talking about, set up just for this joke. And you can't prove harm. You can prove that his transgender friend who got harassed committed suicide. That you can prove. Sorry, I'd like a little bit of evidence, and just because he includes it in a joke does not mean this is how he feels. This is how comedy works. Well, different comedies can work different ways. I'm not saying the special was good. Personally, 846 is the only worse special than this, but that was not comedy. That was another emotional reaction. And this is sort of him trying to do an emotional reaction. At least that's my opinion. It's a mixture between his comedy and an emotional reaction, like his George Floyd special.
You just admitted your jokes are hurting people, and then you immediately tell the joke you think is hurting people. If you've been catching shit about...
Yes, subversion. He is an asshole. Not gonna argue with that. Really. Does DoomerMedia understands comedy? Obviously he doesn't understand all comedy. Even edgy comedy.
About this for years, maybe tell jokes about something else? I'm sure there's an artful way to address these subjects.
Yes, and plenty of other people can do this. Okay, why the hell should Chappelle do this? As I said before, not his most tactful. This was borderline vicious. But I can understand the anger where he's coming from. Also, the black community, trans community, there are issues between the two fighting for their rights. And sort of this back and forth. He doesn't even bring up that dynamic. One message takes away another message. I'm not saying that's what he's getting at, but possibilities, and it's humor.
But acknowledging the harm you might be doing and then just doubling down and doing it over and over and over again is just an asshole thing to do.
Yes.
Dave ends the closer with an appeal to empathy.
Asshole comedy.
Empathy is bisexual. It must go both ways. I am not telling another joke about you until we are both sure that...
He's bringing up a real serious issue. There's a lot of bisexual hate in the LGBT community. No, I'm joking. Yes, there is issues with bisexuals, but that's why I shouldn't use comedy.
We are laughing together.
Yes, Dave, empathy is a two-way road, but you don't seem interested in listening to people that are giving you very consistent feedback about these jokes.
Citation needed. Who's given him valid criticism? You're not proving that. Let's see. Twitter? Twitter is not real life. Maybe you think that. Maybe you think your edgy humor getting you suspended from Twitter is real life, but you didn't get suspended, so it wasn't that fucking edgy, I'm betting. Okay. No links to criticism. I know this is a short video. I would like to see some criticism.
Dave's comments here seem to imply that the burden is on everyone else to accept what he says.
No. The burden is not on everyone else. People should judge for themselves. Art is meant to make you think. Ask Chappelle, he's probably an asshole. The generational factor and just the fact that Chappelle goes over the line. He's one of the few comedians who looks at the line and like, can't touch me. Puts his foot over, even jumps back and forth. You can imagine him doing it.
Taking no responsibility himself to avoid causing harm or to just tell funnier jokes.
What responsibility and define funnier? None of this. How does he not take responsibility? None of this is established. This is just a waste of a video. I respect DoomerMedia / politics to a certain degree. He brings up good points, but he doesn't. Too black and white of a thinker, in my opinion. Might because he's more left than me. I'm just a filthy centrist who thinks about both sides. Chappelle, he has feelings. His feelings come out in his comedy. Okay, is it always good? No. Is it always constructive? Hell no. A lot of his comedy can be considered very destructive, but it's comedy. It's meant to push the boundaries. George Carlin, Eddie Vedder, a lot of comedians got arrested for this sort of shit back in the day. Now, that was the right. Now, it's the left. But I must reiterate, DoomerMedia did not say, oh shit, called him by his old name. Is that Bopar?
Here's the bottom line. Joking about trans people is fine, but jokes at the expense of trans people aren't. Not only does he keep telling these jokes despite the fact that he knows they are
getting it out of his system. If he goes on after the special, yes, I would criticize him. It's called The Closer. Okay, he's finishing up with this. That's the point of the special. Okay, he's trying to get all his trans jokes out there. I think it makes for a rather vicious sounding comedy special that isn't quite up to par, but everyone's going to have their own opinion.
Are harming people, but more than anything, they just aren't funny. I rewatched his earlier Netflix specials as research for this video, and they're just as hilarious as I remember. By comparison,
yes, all these were done before COVID. A lot of anger's coming out with COVID. You see it a lot of places. You notice what's there? Look, 2019. Okay, notice pre-COVID. And typically, comedians, all performers really, reflect their audience. And if Dave Chappelle is reflecting this, I'm not saying the trans community should pull back with all their stuff, but at least they should accept and understand that people feel this way. And maybe, that's horrible. When they become victimizers, like harassment campaigns, which are done, I think there is a reason for this.
The Closer is pretty fucking lame. And in addition to being genuinely...
Yes, comparatively to pre-COVID time, yes. It's definitely 6 or 7, why the rest are 8 or 9s pretty much.
Mean. For an all-time great comedian, it's just disappointing. And while I nearly always side with a comedian in these circumstances, this time I really feel like Dave should take the criticism to heart. That's all for Chappelle.
Again, what criticism? Cite source, please. He shouldn't take all the criticism to heart. I'm sure a lot of it's harassment. Saw TYT do some stuff, which I don't actually watch him too much, but that criticism was a nothing burger.
The Django Unchained video is dropping soon, followed by 1 or 2 more film analysis videos, and then the video on Hassan Piker.
I am curious. I don't care about his Hassan video. As long as he doesn't criticize him for being rich. I don't care about that. That was done to death. Let's hope it's a little bit better. But Django Unchained, I'm curious. I haven't rewatched it since my initial viewing, and I think I'm done with that. DoomerMedia, I mean, I like that you care so much and you're so empathetic, extend that empathy to Chappelle and maybe, yeah, he's a rich guy. Maybe you're a leftist, you don't care about rich people, even if they're black and really just trying to do what they think right. Even if it is, you possibly give critics of the trans community fuel. It's a joke, okay? Don't be so critical about it. And please cite your source of what criticism Chappelle should take, because I would like to know. I'm not a onliner, so that's it. Bullshit video for bullshit response for a bullshit video from a bullshit person who does stuff on YouTube. And I'm done.